Let's talk about that little plastic card you use to get into your office. You know the one. It feels pretty secure, right? Well, it might be hiding a 50-year-old secret that could leave your entire building wide open. So let's dig in and see what's really going on.
Seriously, think about that for a second. That keycard reader on the wall, it might look sleek and modern, but the language it's speaking could literally be from the 1970s. And that old tech creates a massive and pretty much invisible security gap.
And this is exactly what we mean. It's a method called a bleed attack. And honestly, it's way simpler than you think. A hacker can just physically tap into the wires behind the reader, and because all the data is just sent out in the open, they can log every single card number that gets used. A few hours later, they basically have a master key to your whole building.
So how is this even possible? Well, it all starts with this really old standard for communication between a card reader and the door controller. It's called Wiegand, named after the guy who invented it way back in the 70s.
And here's the really staggering part. This isn't some forgotten piece of tech. 4 out of every 5 access control systems out there are still using this vulnerable, decades-old protocol. It's that classic, if it ain't broke, don't fix it problem, except it's been broken for a very long time.
So here's the thing you have to understand. Wiegand is a one-way street. The card reader basically just yells the card number down a wire, and the controller on the other end just listens in. There's no back and forth, no "did you get that?" and, crucially, no encryption. The reader has no idea if someone else is listening.
And this just shows you how incredibly simple and insecure that yelling really is. It's not a complex digital code, it's just basic electrical pulses. When you swipe your card, the reader sends the number by literally just dropping the voltage on one of 2 wires. It's so basic that anyone with a simple listening device can just intercept and record the whole thing.
Okay, so that's the bad news. But thankfully, the industry has come up with a modern solution, OSDP, which stands for the Open Supervised Device Protocol, and it's designed to build a much smarter and safer system.
OSDP completely flips the script. Instead of that one-way shout into the void, it creates a secure, two-way conversation between the reader and the controller. They can actually talk back and forth, check on each other, and most importantly, keep their whole conversation private.
So what does this two-way conversation actually get you? Well, first off, supervision. The controller is constantly asking the reader, hey, you still there? You okay? So if a reader gets tampered with or unplugged, the system knows about it instantly. With Wiegand, you'd have no idea until the door just stopped working. And second, and this is the real game changer, AES-128 Encryption. We're talking military-grade stuff that scrambles the data, making it completely unreadable to anyone trying to eavesdrop.
Okay, so let's put these 2 protocols head-to-head. You know, the old guard versus the new fix. It really highlights just how different they are.
At the end of the day, this is what it all boils down to. Wiegand is just a monologue. It's shouting data into the void and hoping for the best. OSDP, on the other hand, is a secure, intelligent dialogue.
I mean, look at this. The difference is just night and day when you put them side by side. For security, Wiegand is unencrypted plain text. OSDP is fully encrypted. For communication, one-way versus two-way. And supervision, Wiegand is totally blind to what's happening with the reader, while OSDP gives you constant monitoring and alerts. In every single category, the modern protocol is a massive leap forward.
So, let's go back to that thief we talked about in the beginning. How does this new technology actually stop them in their tracks?
Right, so this is what that vulnerability is officially called, the bleed attack. It's a classic man-in-the-middle strategy. The hacker puts a listening device between the reader and the controller so they can intercept everything being said. With Wiegand, that whole conversation is just completely out in the open.
And that's the devastating result. The hacker doesn't need to be some super genius cryptographer. Nope. They just have to listen in on that unencrypted monologue. Every time someone swipes their card, another key gets added to the hacker's collection. But with OSDP, the story has a totally different ending. If a hacker tries to tap into those wires, they aren't going to get simple voltage pulses. They're going to get a stream of military-grade encrypted data. It's not just scrambled, it's like trying to read a message that's been shredded into a million tiny pieces and then locked in a vault. The attack is stopped cold. It just doesn't work.
So here's the bottom line. You can have the strongest, toughest lock in the world on your door, but if the wire that controls that lock is left wide open for anyone to listen to, your security is basically just an illusion. It really makes you ask the question, are you just protecting the door, or are you protecting the entire conversation that opens it?